Hey everybody, this is me, the Undead Viking. Now, I have been asked many times by lots of people, it's like, what's your favorite game? And I just say that's a horrible question because that's such a weird, amorphous idea that, like, oh, what's my favorite game? Well, this game is going to be the only one I'm ever going to like for the next whatever. That just doesn't really work that way. But if you ask me what types of games I like, that's a really good question. And one type of game that I'm always eager to try, always eager to play, always excited to give a whirl to is the game with the big map. Now, by that I mean the game with the big map where I get to move figures around and I get to fight other people. There's tons of games out there. It probably has a lot to do with the fact that I played a ton of Risk with my older brother and his friends when I was a kid. But there's tons of games like Axis and Allies and Fortress America, and more recently War Quest, a game that you really should check out. So like whenever, Game of Thrones is even like the game with the big map, so stuff like that is like, I really, really like that. I love the expanse of it. I love the look of it. I love like the idea of me moving these people or figures or monsters or soldiers or whatever across the board to do things. It's just kind of a fun tactile experience. So I was contacted by the designers of this game called Nocturn, and they showed me the game, and I watched a video that they had, and I was like, holy cow, that game looks really awesome. And then as I read the rules, I realized that like this has got this weird like alternative horror kind of aspect to it, but also fantasy, medieval fantasy thing to it. It has some splashes of Game of Thrones in it. It has, if you remember the old midnight D&D setting, it has kind of that in there as well. So I mean, there's a lot of things in here that just really, really excited me and really, really stirred some interest in me. So I was like, yes, please send that over. Let me check it out. I want to see what it's like. And so so they did, and I've played it now with my friends a couple of times. And normally I wouldn't do a review of a game that I've only played a couple times, but this game is like, it's a game with a big map, so it takes a little bit of time to play, and it takes a little bit of effort to get through it. So we played a couple of epically long games of it that were just amazing and fun. And so now, I want to I want to show you about the game. I want to show you how it's played, and hopefully, if you're like a fan of this game with the big map, you'll also be intrigued and want to try this one out as well. So there you go. This is Nocturne. Let me show you how the game is played. Bear with me. It has a few rules. It has a lot of rules, but it's surprisingly easy to play though. So I'm going to kind of just give you a good overview. I'm going to give, like a good crunchy overview of it. So I'm going to probably maybe not get every single exact rule in there done, but just keep that in mind. And I invite you, of course, always to go ahead and check out the rules and read them online so you can take a look at it as well. But let's show you Nocturne, and then we'll come back here and I'll tell you exactly why I'm really having fun with this one. All right, cool. Alright, so Nocturne, as I said, is a game with the giant board, something that I greatly enjoy. So, unfortunately, I really can't show you the whole board all at once here, just because of the fact that, it is that huge. But if I move my camera slightly over here, you can see there's more over there, and there's more over there, and there's more up there, and there's more down there. But regardless, what you see in front of you would be a fairly normal starting way that this game would begin. Now, as I said, there are two different ways to play it. You can kind of play it straightforward without the inclusion of the death player, which I'm going to kind of show you right now, but I am going to touch on the death player before I get done showing you how the game is played. So let me just kind of give you a brief overview of what you're looking at here. The game is set up in such a way that each person will get the same stuff to begin with. You're going to get one location that is going to be where your castle and your capital is, and that's where this big city with this little cool little keep is attached to it. And then you're going to have another fief that you'll have right over here. There's another fief right there. That will be an entity of itself as well, but obviously it isn't your big capital. There can be only one capital per player. You can, like invade those and take those over and stuff like that. They aren't impregnable by any means, but basically you can't elevate one of these castles, or the basic castle, the basic fief, to the same as a capital. Now, I'm going to kind of jump ahead a little bit here. The cool thing about this game is that you do actually have the ability to change things up a little bit. So if you have one of these little fiefs, like this guy right here, you can build it up into a citadel, and it has this cool little mini here. And mind you, the miniatures that I have here may or may not be what the final game is going to look like, but then this represents the fact that you've made this a citadel, and a citadel is tougher to take over because of the fact you got that extra wall or what have you. Now, if a citadel isn't your thing and you don't want to have a citadel, because and you might be saying, well, why wouldn't I want a citadel? Well, one of the things about this game is it's like very feudal, in which case, like, you are a ruler, so to speak, right? And what you see in front of you here, these are your lords. These locations. You have granted them these lands, and you to give them. And they have to pay you tribute, which is like a major part of the game. So if you build a city instead, which is this. Now you might be saying, what's the difference between this and a capital? It's kind of tough to tell, from far away, but you can see the capitals will have a little bit different, and they have this like gold right there to show that they are, a bigger and better than just a normal city. But if you build one of these, obviously they don't have the big walls or anything like that, so these are going to be easier to take over, but they'll give you double tribute because of the fact that you're investing in them to make them bigger and better, if you will, as far as the wealth they generate. Now, the capitals generate both. They give you double tribute, and they are tougher to take over. So they're the best of both worlds, but that's why you can only have one of them. You may have noticed there's different units on the board. One of these guys, you can see the little house token, that makes that a lord. And these match up with the different fief tokens to show they control it. These are just standard footmen, as you can probably guess, and these without those little symbols are just cavalry units, and so keep that in mind as well. All right, so the way the game begins is that you each get to place your capital down, and then you get to place your fief down. Now, for every fief that you have, you get to basically have a different house. So in this situation, like all the ones that I've set up so far have two houses, so you can see the different tokens here, and that's good. That's both good and bad because of the fact that like if you diversify, you can have more lords and more things going on, but also you have extra like activation tokens, and because you can't activate both the houses at the same time, you have to activate them one at a time, and you have a limited number of actions each turn. So, there's good things and bad things. However, it's always good to diversify because the fact that your houses can rebel against you. Something that I'll talk about here in just a little bit. Now, each person, you'll just, like, depending upon it, there's no designation as far as what's perfect, what's right. You'll get these little cards, and two people, you get two of them. You get one for each house. There is a third one because depending upon the way you play, you can actually end up having a third house. And these are kind of cool. They don't really have anything other than the fact that you're just going to put your excess lords on here. These spots down here are for the different tribute tokens that you're going to be placing on them that will determine whether or not they rebel against you. Something, once again, I'll touch on here in just a little bit. But you can kind of see, these are kind of like these cool wolf people. And you can definitely tell, as I said, this game was inspired, in some way, by Game of the Thrones. You can obviously, just get a kind of a Stark feeling from that one. Obviously, these are just like, I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't think it's the White Walkers because of the fact that there's, the undead thing. But, this just, yells Lannister to me, of course. But anyway, regardless. And who cares if it's inspired by that, because that's an awesome show. And if I'm playing a game that kind of likens it to that, I dig it. But anyway, so after all is said and done, after you set these things up, you get your starting armies out there, you get your starting fiefs out there, You'll determine a first player, and then you will start taking your actions. So the thing is that each player will have these tokens, and they'll have the picture of like this on one side, and then they'll have these different actions that you can activate in each one. And depending upon like how much renown you have, you start off being just like a lowly noble. You'll have 4 actions. If you get to be a prince by gaining renown, you get 5. A king, and so on and so forth. You get more and more actions. But starting with the first person, they'll just take one of their tokens and they'll show it to everybody and they'll flip it over, meaning that they can't take that action again, and then they'll take that action. The next person will do the same thing, and so on and so forth. You can pass at any time, but but eventually you'll have to pass because you'll run out of actions. So just keep that in mind. So I'm just going to kind of go through the different actions that you can take, and as we go along, I'll touch on some other different things as we get there. Before I step into that, though, I just want to talk about one other thing quickly. Before the game begins, because you're saying, well, how do I get renown? Well, renown is usually gained by either you start with 2 renown because of the fact that you just have your capital. So everybody's going to have one of these cards, and so those 2 crowns show that you have the 2 renown. Obviously, if you ever lose your capital, you'd lose this card, and you wouldn't have that anymore. There are cards that say, like, if you control all of the spots that have the purple swan on them, you get 4 renown for doing that. There are also random ones like this. You have at least 15 treasure chests. Treasure chests are these guys right here, these little tokens, and that's just the money in the game. So, like, just consider 15 gold or whatever. When you have at least, if you have at least 15 treasure chests, you can turn this over and show everybody that you got 1 renown. Now, obviously, if you spend that money, you're going to have to flip it back over. So this can go back and forth. Some other things, just quickly, you own counties in these 3 different realms. The realms are these, like, little symbols that are on there. So, different things like that, and you'll get 1 random one to begin with at the very beginning of the game that you get to use. There are also these cool resource cards, and depending upon the type of realm you're in, you get one of these at the beginning of the game too. So it might be tough to see, but that one is like for a grassland. Like this is for a river. This is for like being by the sea, and you get one of these randomly at the beginning of the game, depending upon where your fiefs are. So like this blue character could take one for green, it could take one for this river, and it could take one for the sea. And these little things, they just give you like a little bonus, like a little extra whatever that they kind of remarks upon them. So you have, and like here, like letters of marque. The court's documents travel to your nation's sailors, authorizing them to attack and capture vessels of your enemies. At the end of the round, you may take up to 4 treasure chests from a chosen player if he controls any coastal provinces. So it's just like little cool little powers and abilities. And I like these. I like these a lot because they add a lot to kind of like the storyline of the game. They add a lot to the immersion. And they add a lot to like kind of the narrative. And those are things I talk about a lot in my videos. I really enjoy games that kind of just tell me a story as I'm playing it. And you can kind of live and breathe the world that you're living in. So I dig these different like special resource cards depending upon places that you control and you take over. All right, so I'm not gonna show you each one of the little tokens because it's easier. There is this excellent little card, the player's aid that you have that talk about the different action tokens over here. So building. You may build up to 2 new fiefs on your lands. Each fief's basic cost is 3 gold or 3 treasure chests. Now, when you build a fief, I'm just going to kind of show you something. You have to control the spot that you're going. So, like, you'd have to have, like, people in there, and it couldn't be contested. When you build a fief, what happens is you have 2 choices of what you're going to do. You can place them in the middle, in which case then they become a county. That becomes something where, like, basically you're saying, I control this. And you have to do that to begin with. You have to start off with a county. However, you can build what's called a march after the next. So, like, so for example, like, we control this area as the purple ruler. You can build what's called a march, and what you do is you place the fief right on the border to show that it is there. And what that does is it prevents, it would prevent the blue player from just walking in. They couldn't just I'm going to move into your spot. They have to lay siege to this castle, this fief, to be able to just freely enter the area. So you can obviously you could build it over here to protect yourself from this white ruler as well. So, and this is where one of the things comes into the game where you will be negotiating, you will be talking to people. It's like, hey, I need to focus on this guy over here. Please don't attack me while I'm doing this. And so you have these different things. Now remember, you can't have a joint victory in this game. This game lasts 10 turns. And whoever has the most renown at the end of the game will win the game. So yeah, you can set up negotiations, and you can be friends for a little while, but eventually, if somebody's ahead of you, you're going to have to take them down. You're going to have to attack them to reduce their power level, so you have a chance to win. So that is building. Technology, you draw 3 technology cards. Those are those cards I just showed you a little bit ago. And then you just pick one. You only can draw from the ones that you're available to, and then you just keep one, and then you put the other one on the bottom of the deck. Pretty simple, but obviously, like I said, those are really powerful and they can be really helpful, so I like them. Call to arms. You can place your lords on the board from your house cards. After that, you can return your lord back from the board to the house's card. Now, the reason why this is lords are the only people that can actually move around the board. But when they move around the board, they're able to drag other units around the board as well. So it's one of those things where you could call a lord back. So on a later turn, you could put them back on the board onto another spot where you maybe, so you can kind of almost weirdly teleport them over. Also, you might call them back to protect them, because it is really tough to resurrect a lord after they're dead. And so if they're in an untenable spot where you feel like that the army is going to destroy them, you can call them back to their house card that you have, and then deploy them at a later time. So that's what you do that. Tributes. Let's skip that just for a second. I just want to talk about the other two because it's kind of easy. Development. Develop one of your undeveloped fiefs into a city or a citadel. You pay 6 treasure chests or 6 gold to do that, and then you build that up. House activation. Now you activate the lord, who then can move on the board, move a spot, and bring other units with you, and then that starts up battles, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. So now let's head back to tributes. Okay, so what happens with tributes is that you decide what kind of tribute you want. Now, some tributes, and there's these tokens. So you have a tribute here, and this would get you cavalry units, from the fiefs that you have. This would get you 2 treasure chests for it. This would get you 4 treasure chests for it. Now, you might be saying, well, why would I take a 2 over a 4? Well, on the back of this 2, you can see there's this guy, he's kneeling. He is swearing fealty to his lord. Whereas, on the back of this 4, you can see this is this clenched fist of rebellion. The same thing applies to, and let me find one of these. So here is a footman. So you can recruit footmen from your lords. And then here's the fealty signal. But as you might guess, the ones that have the horse or the cavalry unit on it, on the other side, you can see there's that fist. So it's basically you're taxing your houses as the ruler. You're saying, I need money, so I can do this, or I need cavalry units because they're more powerful. But you're putting a strain on your relationship with your house. So what happens is that on this card, and this card would have a house symbol on it like this to denote which house. So you place the tribute tokens down here, one by one. As soon as all 4 are full, you have to test that house's loyalty to you by randomly. You take all 4 of the tokens that you have put on there. So you take all 4 tokens, and maybe you were kind and you didn't do anything. You only you were really good to them, and you didn't actually test the will. So let's say you did 2, and then 1 horse, right? Those are the 4 that you grab. So you would put these in a bag, or you could do it another way too, but you shuffle them up, and then they have another person reach in and grab one. So they reach in and they grab one, and if they pull one out that says fealty, then that house remains loyal to you, and you don't have to worry about it. And then after that, then you can, like you swipe off all of the tokens, and you can begin anew. If you get the one, the bad one, so like if you get the fist, that house rebels against you. And what happens is that you put one of these rebellion tokens on every spot that is controlled by that house. They no longer are controlled by you. You literally have to go and take them out and attack and basically bring down the rebellion. As long as one of these rebellion tokens is out there, meaning that like they control, that house is still rebelling against you. And other players can step in and attack them as well, obviously, and take them down. So but once you do, then you control the house again, and then you be saying that is a devastating thing to happen. But the other thing I want to mention is when you do tribute, you will have in situations like this purple, so like this house right here. So if that house had it had a that fief there, and let's put like they had a county here as well, and you always put a token next to the fief, so you can tell which house is controlled by that. You don't have to, you can divvy them up however you want. So when you do the tribute, you get tribute from all of these. So if you took 2 gold coins, you would get 2 gold coins from this one, 2 gold coins from this one, and you would get 4 gold coins from the capital, because you double the tribute. Remember, because like if it's a capital or a city, you double the tribute. And that goes just the same for footmen or for cavalry units as well. So if you took cavalry, you get 2, 3, 4 cavalry in that situation. So sometimes, and that's that whole thing that I mentioned before, that you can diversify your lords if you want. But but then it takes multiple actions to like kind of get your tribute from them. However, if you if everything's controlled by one house, you can get all of your tribute all at once. But then you run the risk of what if they rebel against you? So it's just like there's some interesting decisions as far as that is concerned. All right, so the final thing, warfare. So, as you probably guess, warfare is going to occur when people are either sieging one of these locations or 2 armies meet. Now, you don't necessarily have to fight. This isn't a situation where if 2 armies are in the same spot, they have to war. You can have discussions or whatever. It's like, look, we're not going to fight. You can even team up on other players if you will. But if you were in a situation, let's just put some units down here. If you're in a situation where you have units that are going to fight, and let's just put that there. What happens is that after you activate, so let's say purple activated this ruler and they moved into this spot, they can, after being in that spot, say, all right, now we're going to fight. And at that point, what happens is that each person is going to choose a tactic for their particular this particular battle, and they show that, and then you're going to roll dice. So tactics are things like this, like feigned retreat, +1 dice from footmen, and then it would defeat that particular action would defeat a charge. And it would defeat, let me find the other card here. It would defeat like a counterattack, because you can kind of see, those symbols or whatever. So each person, it's not exactly rock, paper, scissors, because there's lots of different tactic cards. It's more of a weird pentagram of options or whatever. So you put those cards down, and if one person defeats the other one because of their choice, they're going to get a bonus die. Usually, like they'll get a bonus die from footmen, or a bonus die from cavalry. Now, here's the thing: you at most are ever going to have 3 dice when you fight, because of the fact that you're going to get 1 die for footmen, you're going to get 1 die for cavalry, and then you're going to get 1 die if you get the bonus. So you'll have 3. If both people pick the exact same card for their attack, then it's just a wash. Nobody gets a bonus. It's just nobody gets that +1 die. All right. So what happens is you're just going to roll the die, and each person is going to resolve the casualties when they roll the dice. Now, as you can probably guess, rolling higher is better. So if I had just like let's say the purple got 3 dice and white got 2 dice, so I'll just roll these 3 dice. So I got a 1, 5, and a 6. That was a 1, not a 7. I'm a cheater. All right, 1, 5, and a 6, and a 6 and a 2. So on a 4 or 5, you get to destroy opponent's footman unit, or you can destroy an opponent's cavalry unit on a 6 through 8, or 2 footman units, and then that's a 6 through 8. Now there is a special like death creature, this Leviathan creature that you need an 8 to destroy, but that isn't going to be entering into the situation right now. So in this situation, this 2 and this 1, they aren't worth anything. But the 5 and the 6, are going to are going to actually probably destroy everything because of the fact that the 6 can destroy 2 footmen, and the 5, actually I apologize, a 4 or 5 destroys 1 footman, and the 6 can destroy 2 footmen or a cavalry unit. But this cavalry unit's a lord, and you can't destroy the lords until all the other units are gone. So in this situation, we can go ahead and take out both of the footmen, and they're gone, they're done, we're going to take them out. With that 6, they can take out 2 footmen. So let's just say they do that. They're going to take out the 2 footmen that I have and remove them. Now, here's the cool thing. Let's say my bonus die was for footmen. So I don't have any more. So I'm going to lose that bonus dice that I have. And now you have a situation where 2 people are just going to be rolling 2 dice and see what happens. And so in this situation, we're actually just going to be both to be destroyed in this situation and be taken down on both the lords. And so later on, we're going to have to resurrect our lords by paying money and sacrificing some man-at-arms units to do that. But so that's how combat works out as far as the dice are concerned. Now, the other difference is sieges. All right, so when you do a siege, to show that you're sieging a castle, you put your units close together like that to show that you're sieging that castle, and then it's done. When you siege, the defender gets 1 die that they get to roll and then and fight back. The attacker gets dice as normal. So in this case, they would get 2 dice to do the siege. Important to note, why do you siege? When you siege a fief or a castle or a city or a capital or whatever, you can't get tribute from that particular location. So when you siege, so we're just going to roll. So this is the defender and the other 2 dice. Now here's the trick. I got a 7, meaning that I get to destroy 2 footmen or a noble, but I can't. I have to destroy these 2 footmen. But the thing is that a 6 and a 1, the 6 and the 1 aren't going to do anything to take out that castle because of the fact that you have to roll a 7 or better to successfully siege the castle. Now, if this was a situation where I rolled that 7 and the one of these dice was, if I can actually find 8 or a 7, then they would get to remove that, and they would take over that castle, and it would now be theirs, and they'd replace it with that. The only other thing, you remember I've said repeatedly that citadels have a greater defense or what have you. And for that matter, capitals do as well, because they have the same ability as a citadel. Citadels, with this cool little castle around these walls around it, you have to get 2 dice that are 7 or better to actually manage to destroy or take over one of these citadels or capitals. Meaning that you have to have footmen and cavalry units attacking in order to pull that off. So that is how sieges work. Alright, so the game is going to continue for 10 rounds. As soon as 10 rounds are over, at that point, whoever has the most renown will win the game. Alright, so I did touch on the fact that we have the dead, or whatever, as far as this, because remember this world of Nocturn is the idea that this was kind of a horror-filled world, and we came in and settled it, but there's this awakening of this used to be the land of the dead, but we've kind of taken over and are trying to instill some light to it. But the dead don't lie still. So if you have 4 or 5 players, 1 player If you want to play a longer game, because this will make the game a little bit longer, if you play 5 players, you have to do this because there's only 4 players. But if you play 4 players, you can choose not to. But 4 or 5 players, you have the character you can have or have to have the dead, which is they are in a house. They are exactly that. They are this undead lord that is slowly but surely coming back. So they have this deck, this darkness deck, and they have this deck of omens as well. They get all of the omens to start with. They will draw darkness cards as well in this fight, and they have, of course, their own like evil units, just like you'd expect. The armies of the dead. So here are these omen cards, and so on their turns they get to play these omen cards. So they have these city fables. Death may now only awaken in the province with a city. Death may now only awaken in the coastal province. Death may now only awaken in the province of the citadel, and so forth. They have these different omen cards. For the first 3 rounds of the game, they have to play omen cards. Well, they don't have to. They could play darkness cards, but they can't awaken until they get 3 of these cards out. And once they get 3 of those cards out, they are able to awaken and place themselves on locations that their omen cards will allow them to do so. Once they are out, what they'll do is they will place, so if they start, here. Well, actually, you couldn't start there because there's a capital. Let's start them here by these mountains. Okay, you place that particular card down, meaning that this now has become a wasteland. This area, it can't ever be reclaimed. It's been destroyed. It's been ravaged. And you are going to place, your evil units in this location to they're going to slowly, you're going to move them out, and they're going to activate them and move them out. The death player has 1 activation token, and it is simply you activate your undead champions. Your undead champions then move out onto the board. They bring their hordes with them, and they go to war. And they try to just destroy. The only thing you have to worry about as the dead player is just conquest, conquest, conquest. That's all you have to do. You're trying to, and as soon as they take over and control a location, you place another one of these tokens down to show that that particular spot has been ravaged and destroyed. At the end of the 10 rounds, they're going to get points for every spot that they've destroyed, plus bonus points for taking out a capital of somebody else. So these darkness cards, what they have is they give them little extra powers. So during the darkness phase, place 1 horde for each champion on the board, so they can get more units. Each time your army wins a battle, add to it 2 hordes. Another cool thing is if you're playing with the dead, every time that a normal lord falls in battle, you don't get them back. They are raised from the dead, and you give them to the other players as a champion. You give them the dead player as a champion because they've been raised from the dead to fight for the undead. So cool little things like that. Here's like the Leviathan. The dreadful burrows, cruel creatures trained in ancient art of taming the mightiest monsters of the continent, Leviathans. During the darkness phase, place 1 Leviathan in a chosen province with wasteland token. So you can, let me see if I can find the old Leviathan thing here. Here we go. So there you go. You have the giant Leviathan, and obviously the Leviathan has its own die. It is its own type of unit, and just basically you get an extra die when it is in there, and it is very difficult to kill. I'm not gonna lie. Playing as the dead is a lot of fun, and it's awesome. It does simplify the game for you a little bit because of the fact that, like I said, the only thing you have to worry about is conquest. You're not really worried about making deals with people. You're not really worried about trying to negotiate. You can lose your units, but you're always just resurrecting more and putting them back on the board. So it's kind of fun to be that. And plus, having the undead on the board really adds a lot to the gameplay as well because of the fact that, all these these lords are fighting over this land, but you have this bigger problem, if you will, lingering, hiding in the weeds, and so it's things like that make that addition to the game a lot of fun. But let me talk about that and a whole lot more in my conclusion. All right, thanks for taking the time to learn or watch or whatever you want to call it how Nocturne is played and what the kind of the experience of playing Nocturne is like. As I said, this is a game that has several rules and has a lot going on, but the couple of things that it stood out for me that I really liked, the whole process of the action selection that you have, and the fact that you can actually see what the other people have as far as what they're going to be doing, the actions they're going to take, and what they have still have available to them and available to you. I really like that in games. It prompts like ideas of trust and loyalty and being able to have that open negotiation at the table because you can see what they can do. And so if you're trying to work a situation where you're trying to get maybe your soldiers into a spot where they could lay siege to the person's fief or whatever, and you look over and you see that they have already used their upgrade ability. They've already done that process, so they can't do it again. That's one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, so I can wait one more turn. I can build up my forces a little bit more. Maybe I can get a tribute token and get some more soldiers, and then I'll move in because of the fact that I have a little bit of time as far as that goes. I mean, then the same thing is exactly opposite. I mean, do I rush into combat because of the fact that they could be building up their forces over there that I wouldn't be able to take out their fief, if that's the case, so they have like those kind of like cool decisions that you have. I really like the tribute situation where you're trying to decide because man, having one of your houses rebel against you is that is rough. I mean, it's, especially if you spend a lot of time, building up their infrastructure and like you've built up their fiefs and like they're really powerful, and like you go into the situation where it's a 1 in 4, like seriously, like a 1 in 4 shot. That they're going to rebel, and the player draws that token. I mean, that's just debilitating. I mean, and it's like, but sometimes you just absolutely have to do it. There isn't like some magical way to get more money in this game. You have to tax your people, and you're going to run into situations where it's like, well, I need money. I need money so I can, resurrect my fallen lords, or I can hire mercenaries. I forgot to talk about this. There are mercenary armies, so like you can spend money to hire mercenary armies to place, to fight for you if you don't want to go through tribute. So there's other, building up, different things that you need the money. So you have to like go and tax the crud out of your people, but then you're worried about the fact that like, oh geez, that's gonna stink when I see it they rebel. But the thing is that you don't have to hit that 4th spot, right? You can go with tribute, and then stop at that 3rd one and not ring the bell, so to speak. So there's that fun time as well. I mean, then so you're also looking at the place because that's open knowledge. You're looking at the different locations. Okay, it's like, are they going to go for that 4th tribute, or whatever? Probably not. So maybe I have some leeway here. Maybe I can turn my back on them. They're not going to have any units to attack me. That sort of thing. So there's all kinds of like fun things that happen. As far as the different action selections and the units on the board and everything like that really make for a fun game. Now, the other thing I really like is just I like games like this because it opens up negotiation. It opens up table talk. It opens up you and the other players interacting. You're already interacting, obviously, because you're beating the crud out of each other on the board. But the fact that like you're talking and like I can always count on my friend Craig, the like very first round of the game, turning to somebody that isn't me and saying, I want to attack you, you want to attack me, and then let's just get Lance the entire game. It's like clockwork. It's maybe like a minute into the game before he makes that declaration. So I mean, but I don't. That's part of the game, and that's the game beyond the game that I really enjoy. Now I mean, if I was forced to play it normal with 3 people and not have the dead, I think the game would still be fun, but having the 4th or 5th player playing the dead really makes this game shine. When they come on the board after those 3 turns of like just giving the omens, it's like the game switches and it turns, and all of a sudden now, all the other players have to decide, do we fight the undead, which, just keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. I mean, it's just like, it's a water hose, just like spraying, dead creatures onto the board. It's tough to like fight against that, but you have to keep those in check, because if you don't do anything about them, they will slowly but surely just eat away at the board. Not only like reducing your chances to get renown yourself, but just adding renown to themselves. And it adds this level of tension, this level of excitement to the game that it just, in my opinion, like, unless you're absolutely forced to play because you're playing with 3 people, if you're playing with 4 or 5, there's just no reason not to play with the Undead Army. Now, that being said, if you wanted to just play a game that was like just a medieval, like diplomacy slash, like war game, yeah, I mean, this game works perfectly for that. But like I said, having that fantasy element of having that evil undead, like, just munching thing taking over the world, it really makes the game a lot of fun. But the nice thing is that isn't your deal. If you don't want to have to deal with that, and that isn't, you can just not play with that aspect of the game, and you can just play otherwise. So obviously it works both ways. Now, I mean, this game has everything that I really like. It has the build up of your nation. It has, like, it doesn't have 27 units that you have to remember all these stats for. You just have 2 basic units. Technically 3, I guess, with the lords, but you just have 2 units to deal with. You have, very straightforward actions, and it just, it has a lot of complexity. But the complexity doesn't, move into the rules of it. The rules are really straightforward. The rules are really evident and obvious, I guess. And they also are very immersive as well. They make sense. So it adds to that level of the game as well. And so it's a fun 2-3 hours of you and the other players, at each other's throats for a while. And, getting to that point where, you have those last 2 or 3 turns, and those last 2 or 3 turns seem to last as long as the preceding, 5 or 6, because of the fact that you're just like, how am I going to win? Or if I'm in the lead, how am I going to maintain this lead? So it's a fun little aspect, and the cool thing is that you think, okay, so this person's in the lead, they got a lot of renown, everybody else is just going to gang up on them and beat them down. Well, the problem is with that is that as you gain renown, you get more actions per turn, so it kind of helps out those people that have, are in the lead as well. So it's a nice evening out mechanic, for the, like, if they are being subjected to everybody else knocking down their door, they have the ability to fight back against it because of the fact that they just have more options available to them each and every turn. So just lots of cool stuff like that going on in the game. The game is a heck of a lot of fun. It's got a cool theme. It's got great art. And, just go ahead and check it out. You can decide for yourself, obviously. But if you like games with the big giant board and lots of little units moving around and fighting each other, I think you're really going to enjoy Nocturne. So, thank you as always for taking the time to watch this video. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions about the game, ask away. I'll try to answer those as best as I can. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, and I'm telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.